Welcome, and today we're going to discuss ideas and concepts around the shadow, releasing the shadow, doing the work to let go, release old emotional baggage, and then we're also going to talk about the flip side to that and growing into our, spiritual higher self mode and really raising consciousness, which is essentially why we are here, and embodiment, evolving and having this earth experience. So first, I like to really go into the concepts and ideas around our shadow side. It's good to take these moments and take a step aside and really have that, perspective, higher perspective of really looking up and seeing our lives in a different way. This really helps us to detach from the old stories and the baggage and the karma and the experience. Sometimes when we're going through something, it's almost like, it's got a weight to it, and it draws us down deeper into the depths of that experience. One way to kind of look at it is that our emotional baggage, our karma, our denser, low vibrational, lower consciousness experiences weight us and drag us into a lower state of consciousness, which isn't good or bad. We don't want to judge any of that. We just want to have that higher perspective of being able to not be so consumed and enmeshed and almost like suffocated in that experience. When we are in the experience, it's difficult because, of course, it's really hard. It is suffering. And human suffering is one of the most difficult experiences because, as you know, anyone who's ever gone through anything, really monumental like loss, or addiction, or abuse, or divorce, or, any of the big, huge, many things that happen to us, you know how difficult it is to go through that. When you're going through it, to say, oh, well, we just need to have this higher consciousness and rise up above it and have less attachment to it is a bit frustrating to hear, and sometimes isn't so helpful. So what we have to do is really honor where we're at, and we have to honor where other people are at, and know that having higher consciousness or a higher state doesn't mean that you're better or lower than any one given person or experience. It just means being able to see fully. When you're down into something, you're not able to fully see it. Just like if you're able to summit an incredible mountaintop, you're able to then look down and actually see the full totality of that incredible landscape. When you're way down in it and you're in the jungle of all of the experiences, it makes it difficult to see. And that's what we're doing with these videos, with this teaching, is really helping you to take that pause button and helping you to think, okay, yeah, you know what, I do have control over this. I have the choice to be able to choose what are the optics here that I'm viewing this loss, this suffering. Am I down in the experience where I'm not able to really see exactly all the aspects and components of what could be happening here? Or am I climbing up to the summit top and I'm looking then down on all of it? And I remember, I'm a soul having a human experience. I am a soul, I'm a spirit. I am an evolved, incredible, ancient one that was brought here to experience these things, and we are not of the world. We come to experience this, but we don't need to get so enmeshed and entangled in it that we forget. We forget in our reality is that suffering. We're born here. We come into, embodiment. We embody these incredible vessels here. And we have certain parents, and then, it begins right away with watching and learning and getting taught things. We are also very energetic creatures, and so everything has a certain vibration to it. So we're picking up on who we are. What are we? I have a newborn baby, And it's really amazing to see him learning and taking in all these things. He watches me very closely. He watches the way that I articulate myself. He watches my hair. He watches what clothes I wear. He watches how both his parents move through the day. He watches how his dad talks to me. He watches how I talk to his dad. He looks at the dogs. He sees all these behaviors, all these nuances, all the energetics, all the vibrations of his surroundings. Am I safe? Am I okay? Does that feel normal? Does that feel good? He's learning all these things, and it's really the responsibility of the highest order, being parents. It really, truly, truly is, because they are incredible, innocent, pure consciousness. I could feel that in him, in his eyes, as he's learning language, as he's learning all of these things. It's the highest order for me as his mother to be able to really watch the things that he's sponging up, like a little sponge. He's sponging up. Am I okay here? Am I safe? Am I loved? When my mom says my name, does she say it with grace and with beauty? And you know, his name is Danilo. So do I say Danilo, or do I say Danilo? And I look deep in his eyes so that he's seeing reflected back to him, I am a graced one, remembering in me that his mother remembers. And so I'm using that so that we can kind of take a step back and think about, okay, so did your mom and dad have that higher states of consciousness or awareness where they thought about their impact on you? Probably not. That's what we do all day here at SpiritQuest, is that we have consultations with incredible, beautiful people that have amazing parents, but a lot of them were either asleep or not really fully awake. And very few of us honestly are fully awake. What does that even mean? It's just like going up the staircase of consciousness. And I really don't believe that any human has the capacity to be fully enlightened, because we are human, and the human condition is something that we all will grapple with. So no person's going to be better than you, worse than you, anything of that sort. We're all here together to walk hand in hand through this thing called life, and to do this earth school together, and try to walk up that staircase, bringing each of us up with it, not pushing people down on our way. That's the opposite of what we're trying to do here. So coming to SpiritQuest, watching these videos, you know, doing the research that you're doing on YouTube really says a lot about your process in awakening. So, you know, thinking back to your parents, okay, so what did my parents model to me, and what sort of messages were being sent to me about who or even what I am? What am I? What am I to these people? What language am I being taught? What culture am I in? What country? What sex am I? All this starts to be brought in, and I've said this before, but it's like little stamps. Stamps of a name, stamps of a birth date, stamps of a gender, stamps of a culture, stamps of a race, stamps of DNA, stamps of ancestral lineages coming through, past lives even, all these stamps forming you like this incredible sculpture, this unique, really incredible sculpture. I think sometimes we forget, we really forget, and as soon as we're born, we're forgetting more and more. And with each stamp, we forget more and more that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. We get lost in the sensations of the body. Am I comfortable? Am I not? Am I safe? Am I not? We start learning this survival. What do I need to survive here? What do I need to feel okay? When I cry out, am I going to be met with someone who really takes care of those needs? I see with my baby, he is the purest, raw, truest form of how I can evolve as a human if I pay close attention to him. And when I pay close attention to him, he's crying out for food. He's crying out for me to, change his diaper. He's crying out for rest. I'm meeting the lowest part of his needs, but he also has a whole you know, like the hierarchy of needs, he has a lot of other needs that need to be taken care of. He has emotional needs, spiritual needs. There's a lot that comes into the human evolution and growth, like physical, real growth as we age. And so lack can happen in those days, and that's you know, that imprinting I was talking about. And so that creates the shadow side, the pieces of us that are in illusion and are not real. When you were told, no, I don't want to hear that, your voice isn't good, stop singing, or when you were bullied in childhood, or when you were told that you weren't going to really amount to much, or you weren't necessarily told that, but you were getting those messages in many, many different ways. We get a whole slew of messaging all throughout the day. The key is, are you going to prescribe and believe those messages? Where are those messages even coming from, and who's sending the message, and why are you going to believe that? That's how belief systems start. And lots of times we don't actually have the mountaintop view to be able to look down and actually question those belief systems and say, hey, I'm getting messaging here that I'm not capable enough to do that job. I'm getting messaging here that I am just what my body looks like. And that's my value, is what other people say my body looks like. Maybe what society deems attractive. That's just an example. But it's a very easy thing to get tricked into thinking that, you know, placing your value in something that's an external thing that's quite vapid and doesn't have much meaning. But we get tricked into thinking that. It's really easy to fall victim to that. And so it's not about having shame around it or having blame or judgment. We really have to do the work of just seeing. That's what we're doing here. Spirituality, I think sometimes people make this into this super complex thing, and that you have to spend hours in meditation, and it really doesn't. You know, it's really about these small moments of how we walk through life. Who are we judging? How are we treating ourselves? What is the heaviness of every moment of each day? Am I living in this state of fear, of distrust, of dishonesty, of illusion, of trickery, of hurts and pains? Am I using this right here, you know, like the 4 agreements? Am I using my word as a force for good, as Don Ruiz says? Ruiz, excuse me. Or do I use my word as a force of good? You know, it is a sword. The word is a sword, which can really either hurt and bring things down, bring my life down, bring my consciousness down, knock me off the summit I was working so hard to climb up. You start gossiping and judging and saying hurtful things, not just through here, but your mind is constantly saying things. What's the messaging that you're sending out? You know, that's another piece to it. We're getting messages all throughout the day in this movie, this construct, but we're also sending out messages. What are the messages of vibration? What is it that we think we are and who we are? How do we talk to ourselves? What do we think about ourselves? What do we think about others? What do we say about ourselves? What do we say about others? And that is always going to come back, because we always are going to see what we are. We're always going to get what we are. We're always sending out messaging out, which is going to have the reverse effect of coming back in. That is why so many times when we're placing blame, judging things, lots of times we're just seeing ourselves. I know that's a tough pill to swallow, but that is the work that we're doing. We're just opening our eyes. We're opening up our eyes so that we can see, and we start walking up each staircase, each step into another realm of love, of letting go, of forgiveness, of walking with grace and with beauty. And so we get lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter, and we help to really control our nervous system and our ego, and we see obstacles in a way that it's like amazing. This is another earth realm obstacle, this stress. We get to choose how we respond to each and every given moment. But the shadow work, doing this emotional work, is very important. If you feel like you're going to do the spiritual work and you're just going to try to jump up 2 flights of stairs. It's not going to happen, because the spiritual work is starting from the very origins of your existence and doing the clearing work. And you've got to go through the emotional body. You've got to start from the very beginning and clear out and recognize and open the eyes and release the old patterns. That is what we're doing here, is we're opening the eyes of our perception, so that we can grow the wings and have the awareness. The more awareness that we have, the more we are able to really properly see yourself and staying out of the illusion of self-deception. We can be very, very self-deluded, and it doesn't have to come from a place of judgment. It just comes from a place of really starting to see all of the imprinting and beliefs that weren't yours. So when you can see that, it helps you to have a letting go process. And it can be difficult. I feel like we're not able to do it ourselves. Learning is great. Hearing and talking and these types of things, doing your studies, is very good. But the problem is that many times it stays within the conceptual world of the mind. And that's really where we're trying to break free from. One thing to really remember when it comes to our thoughts and what we think and the stories that we tell ourselves is that it's really coming from a place of the mind. And all those messages and all the imprinting and all the beliefs are sending signals constantly. So the work is really breaking down and doing this traveling deeper into the body. What that helps us to do, instead of trying to travel up right into the spirituality piece, that's what causes the bypass. Because you can't just jump and miss all these other steps. This is a staircase that I was referring to, similar to the chakra system or the hierarchy of needs system. There's a lot of systems that follow the same sort of paradigm, if you will. But we have to go back into the first wounding, the primal wounding, the first aspects of our survival, our safety, our origin story, our ancestry. And this starts with traveling deeper into the body. We don't bypass, so we have to drop down and we have to just start within the deepest parts of the body. We don't bypass the body, because what can happen when we are traumatized or we have sensations of discomfort or suffering in our lifetimes is that we want to escape. We have many different ways of escaping. One form of escape is the self-trickery or the being self-deluded. Lies can help us, being deceived within ourselves, thinking that we are this identity that we've constructed. Alcohol, sex, anything that keeps us farther away from our truth, our center, and the work that it takes to get to that is means of escape. And so the sad thing is that all these different things that we do to try to give us this false sense of comfort is fed by our ego and our subconscious. But it gets us farther and farther away from really being able to really truly see who we are. When we do this work and we're able to really feel that raw, true, pure essence of our soul and our spirit, it's the most incredible thing in the world. That you'll fall so deeply in love with yourself that you will never ever leave yourself ever again. You'll never not trust yourself. You'll never not be in harmony with yourself, because wow, you're in awe every day at your beauty, your strength, your divinity, how creative, how beautiful, how you move through this world. So that is the journey. I know I've said it a lot, that we're here doing this work so that we're continuing to open our eyes to properly see, and part of that is seeing ourselves so that we can see others. So we drop into the body. How do we drop into the body? We work somatically. We do work to really address those core foundational things like our sexuality, our emotional health. Emotions are very important. We are given emotions to go through life, to experience life. We have a whole variety, whole slew of emotions that we need to move through. We don't want to suppress or push down or escape, try to get away, turn away from any emotions, because that is part of the spiritual evolution, that we need to experience what that feels like so that we can properly suffer, so that we don't try to jump the staircase again. So we can't just conceptualize suffering. Oh, looking at, oh, that must really be awful, or trying to empathize with suffering. We have to suffer through our life's karmic lesson. It's going to look different for every single person. Some people are going to experience a tremendous amount of suffering and hurt and pain. Some people are going to have different levels of it. But I feel like all humans suffer. And so, but we do the work to confront any of those old emotions or old hurts that we haven't properly processed. And that's going through the grief, that's going through the hurt, that's going through this, the suffering, so that we can take another step up the staircase, and then we can start to really work on our, our identity and our sense of self and our sense of creation. We are creative beings. We need to create. We must create to find fulfillment. We must birth new ideas. And there's, two aspects to our lives. We have a feminine and a masculine. We need to be able to be in harmony with those things and really enjoy and explore those aspects of being a builder, being a nurturer, and being able to really create. And so then we have, our sense of self-esteem, our sense of choice, our sense of, pride, our sense of really, just like nature, we follow that same experiment, that same construct that nature shows us every day of how to be, like a grand tree. A grand tree is not rooted in nothing. A grand, ancient, old, powerful tree is rooted in what brings its nutrients and its strength, and it draws from others around it. It lives harmoniously in nature with this incredible ecosystem, so that it can be really strong in what it is. It's strong in it being a tree, and then it can rise up to the ethers and get its sunlight. And so if we follow that, it really can help us to remember that we have to stay rooted, we have to stay grounded, we have to be in the body but not of the body. We have to remember that our suffering is just a lesson for us to experience and understand and to learn and evolve from. But we must remember to have our spiritual perspective of, doing the staircase, step of evolution, to be able to get that higher perspective, to look down and understand, that's what it is, and constantly catch ourselves. Just because you've done a lesson or releasing doesn't mean that it's not going to continue to have an imprint on you. I think we're always constantly shaped like an incredible mass of clay. All of our experiences, all the beliefs, everything that we say, our vibration, our desires, all of it, it's going to leave. It's going to shape us all through our life, and we must remain moldable and teachable, not in a conditioning sense. We want to be firm and true to who we are, so we can properly articulate our voice and be, vibrating from our hearts and being of integrity and being of authenticity. But we also want to be able to have that humility, so that we know that we are no better, no worse than any other person. That we're all on this earth school to be able to come together. We can't evolve without each other. We must reach out. We must have humility. We must first drop into our body so that we can fully experience the sensations of the body, sit with the body, understand the experience of what the suffering was teaching us, and then be able to move into a heart. That's why you can't bypass the heart either. We must go through the heart. And what does the heart teach us? The heart teaches us to forgive. It teaches us to love and let go and release the attachments of the pain. And through that, we can then use our voice as a means of spiritual evolution. We can cause a lot of suffering with our voice, but we want to use it as a tool. Our language is such an incredible, complex thing. I watch my son forming language in his mind. His father is Spanish speaking. So we're trying to really help him be bilingual in his life. So he's listening to Spanish, he's listening to English, but the concept of language is very interesting, and the meaning that we are teaching him behind each of those words. Each of those words have a vibration, and in his mind he has a certain meaning about that certain thing. He might have a negative or positive connotation based on his experience with that one thing. So there's a language, there's also the thing, and there's also the meaning that we attach to the thing, and the emotion around that thing too. Let's say that our first experience with ice and with cold is that we walked out and we slipped and we cracked our head open, and so ice has a connotation of being uncomfortable, of being icky, of hurting, of being a source of danger. What is the subconscious going to do the next time that child sees ice? Probably stay away from it, be super scared, maybe go Tharn, depending on the signals of the nervous system. And so I know it's a lot to unpack, and I know that it feels overwhelming sometimes, but really the spiritual work, the healing work is not. It's very simple. It's within all of the mundane moments of our lives. It's when you're getting ready in the moment and you see that person, that reflection in the mirror, it starts right there. What messages am I sending to that person? Am I going to work on deconstructing, dismantling these defense mechanisms, this identity, this trickery, this self-deception? Or am I going to remember my divinity and really work in every moment to bring that into more and more focus? My beauty, my strengths, my true, pure, raw essence. How I do that is by the messages I send to myself, which is going to help me to see others better too. Because it's not just the story of me, it's a story of us. And we will always see others the way we see ourselves. If we see and tell ourselves a story of distrust and dishonesty, and we're going to see that out in the world. And so I just send you so much love. If you're on this path, know that there's ups and there's downs, and we go left, we go right, but there's always going to be a phase, a season to each and every moment. And like the medicine wheel, like the 4 directions, there are phases, there are times. There's a time to sow seeds, there's time to reap what we sow, there's times to bear fruit and have harvest. And so just take it bit by bit, these little steps. And I do suggest, doing the shadow work, and you can do that on your own. If you can't come and do retreat, or find someone in your area to help you with this. It's very important that you reach out and you ask for help, though, because doing the shadow work is difficult on your own, because we've built a whole reality around protecting us. And so it's hard to dismantle those things on our own. Being able to actually see ourselves clearly, we have all those steps, the staircase of consciousness that we have to climb, and we do need each other to do that. So I hope you have a really beautiful day, and thank you for spending this time with me.